What's up, everyone? Welcome to another day with Weekdays with Dahadi. I'm Dahadi, and I am excited. I am lead pastor of Blueprint Church and vice president of the Sin Network. And each day I get on at 11 a.m. to talk about things that divide us, things that's related to the church, COVID-19, systemic injustices, all the variety of different things each and every day I come on. This week has been just a week that I've just decided that I'm not really going to have much guests or much things, even though we had a great guest yesterday. And Precious, thank you, Precious, for joining us yesterday. But today it's me again. It's me. I'm just. This is just kind of like, if you have a question, ask me. If you got a question, I want to ask you. Let's just talk. There's a lot of things I want to talk about. There's certain things I'm not ready to talk about. But some people have made it their aim to discredit this Black Lives Matter, the words, the letters, Black Lives Matter, and I'm gonna address that. But I gotta first, do some research and talk more about kind of what's going on because. And again, the whole argument is that, of course, Black Lives Matter, but I can't support Black Lives Matter because of the organization of Black Lives Matter. And I got some problems with that on a lot of different ways, but I'm not ready to talk about that today. So sometime next week, I'm gonna just give some of my thoughts on this topic of like the words Black Lives Matter and just those types of things. And again, I don't really care if you say Black Lives Matter. You can say we value Black lives. I don't really care. I don't. Like, it doesn't really matter, whether it's Black Lives Matter, I value Black lives. Like, the statements, the sentiment is still the same, is that all people have been created in the Imago Dei, and especially in this day where it seems like Black lives have been systemically been targeted for so long that we need to value Black lives or Black Lives Matter. So like we try to make everything so political. Everything's become so political, and I'm just like I'm gonna come with a response to just simply the statement, because there's a lot of truth about organizations. There's a lot of truth about a lot of things, but I don't really want to get into it. I mean, this, like, as people who are talking specifically about Black Lives Matter, it just has become like, and now all of a sudden, just because someone says it's political doesn't make it political. Like, that just doesn't make sense to me, right? And so I just, like, we just need to just be okay with saying we value like Black lives. We value Black lives. So whether you say Black Lives Matter, we value Black lives, it really doesn't matter, political or not. At the end of the day, I want to talk about systemic injustices that are going towards specifically Black people. I want to have that conversation, but next week I will address specifically this debate between Black Lives Matter and we value, like the specifics, on that. I'm just not ready to talk about that today because I want to come at it as an informed individual. I feel like this is like the Halloween argument, right? We don't celebrate Halloween because Halloween is the origins of Halloween and the history of Halloween. And like, I'm just kind of like, oh, okay, I get it. But just most people, let me just kind of inform you. Most people, when they think about Halloween, they're just thinking about kids and candy. So I understand the origins and I understand all the stuff, but most people are thinking about kids and candy. So but some people have just made it their aim just to only talk about. There's a lot of things in Black Lives Matter organization that I disagree with. So the organization versus but it's the same people who are not willing to nuance the difference between Trump and Republicanism. They are willing to nuance that. I'm willing to nuance certain things, but I'm not willing to nuance other things. And so I just think that that's something that I'm going to address. And again, I'm already talking more than I wanted to talk about it today. But next week, I'm going to come with a more informed thing just talking about this. So what's up, you guys? That's it. That's all I'm going to say about that. This is another day for you. This is another day for you. I want to know what you guys want to talk about. And I'm not going to talk about what I just said today. But I want to talk about what you guys are thinking through. How are you feeling? This is not Feelings Friday, but it's Thought for Thursday. Tomorrow we'll have Chip, and Chip will probably take up all my time. He won't let me talk. He won't let me speak. So I gotta, so today we'll kind of do a little feeling check-in. We'll see how are you doing, what's going on, and everything. So want to say what's up to everybody. What's up, Marianne? Hope you're doing well. Glad that you are here. Antoine is on here. What's up? Brian, Thule, what's up, man? Hope you're doing well. Jessica, Domingo, yes, you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are having a good day. Xavier, what are some of the thoughts? What are some of the recent things? I was just looking. Did you guys know? I know that I've talked a little bit about the 13th, and I'm telling everybody to kind of look at the 13th. And the way I've been telling people, I was just like, in the same way that somehow for white evangelicals, like pro-life became the primary thing, right? That's become the primary thing. And I was asking about the history and how did that come? And thank you for some of you who sent me resources to get a chance to reflect that and to look at that. But then on the flip side of it, there was this, so the same way that we come to that, I've been telling, people that's like, hey, no one has sat us down and told us about things. But however, the 13th, that is just a documentary that just says that this Black people just kind of affirm, like, yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. And it's like they put it in a concise way. By concise, I mean an hour and 40 minutes. But put it in a concise way and in a concise manner for people to understand what we're talking about when we talk about systemic injustice. And that's the reason why I was talking about yesterday. Is like we need to be real careful when calling people racist, because if we're saying that a racist and a rapist is the same thing, then we just got to be really careful when we're calling people racist. Just like in the same way, we got to be real careful when we're calling people a rapist, right? Because that is an intentional thing that is a hard accusation. And so what we need to recognize is that we need to have the facts before we go. Are there rapists? Yes. Are there racists? Yes. But we just need to not throw that tag out there so quickly. However, we can unequivocally, without any, say that there are racist systems, right? And that's not telling anyone, people, that you are racist. What we are saying is that there are systems that are racist. And most people, minorities especially, when we're thinking about this idea, we are talking about racism, the system that's systemic. But when white people primarily, and this is based off of polls that have come out, when white people think about racism, they think about individually, personally. Am I a racist? Are you a racist? So we got to understand that when minorities are primarily thinking about, they're thinking systemically, systemic injustices. So we got to recognize the differences between the two. All right. So that's what we're talking about. And so the 13th is really good at talking about systemic injustices. And it gives us kind of, I think, in a prepackaged way of what minorities feel like of a system that they are being oppressed, and that oppression did not end with slavery, right? Or it did not end with the 13th Amendment. So I would just recommend people watching that. So yes, Marianne, it's the 13th, and we put it in the chat. So I would recommend you to do it. Not that I don't know. I didn't fact check. I did not fact check the 13th. That's like I don't fact check a lot of things. I'm saying watching the 13th as a narrative that that many minorities embrace, because with the idea that the oppression and systemic racism did not end in slavery. It did not end in the 13th Amendment. It did not end with Jim Crow laws, but it is still going. So that's why I'm telling you to watch it. That's my push for watching the 13th. Again, so I just want to be really clear, because people are going to say I'm endorsing it and all these other things. I'm just saying watch it because it's a great narrative. Antoine, watching the 13th for the second time, going through it with my oldest daughter and taking it to the scripture, the love of money being the roots of all kinds of evil, and that the kingdoms of this world are ruled by Satan. It was a watershed for her. Yeah. I mean, I think that's it. It's just being able to expose and just to see it. I just think that is really the idea, that what I'm trying to get out is just trying to make sure that we're doing. And I would say this, another thing about the 13th, it's a documentary on Netflix. Another thing about that, There's actually the guy from VeggieTales. I forgot his name, but the guy from VeggieTales just made a 17-minute thing just talking about systemic racism, and it's really a call specifically to the church. And I like that one as well. It's just kind of like it's a bigger overview. It's a smaller sample size. So think about it: an hour and 40 minutes versus 17 minutes. But it is good. So for some of you that want to listen to that, that is another thing. The seven, I forgot the name of it. I'll actually kind of try to put it down right now to try to figure it out. But it is another great resource to kind of explain this stuff. Like you may have a white brother or a sister, or you may have anybody that is just kind of like, help me to understand, help me to rationalize what's going on when white people or when black people are asking about systemic racism or systemic injustice. What do they mean? Ultimately, what we're saying is that in the 13th Amendment is that after the 13th Amendment, civil, like we were not free, that there has been since that time systemic racism that has taken place throughout the course of America that is still oppressing minorities, that even is still exists to today. That one of its manifestations is that's coming is thought through policing. That's what we're saying. Can we just acknowledge that, right? In the 13th, and this thing by the VeggieTales person is something that I think is important to recognize that. And I'm trying to get this specifically. It's called, and if you go to YouTube, it's Holy Post Race in America. Holy, like HOLY. You didn't know I knew sign? Yeah. HOLY, post, POST, dash race in America. Somebody take that, copy that in the link so that you guys can see those two. One is an hour and 40 minutes, one is 17 minutes, but it just gives you this idea of that. Domingo, on Right Now Media, the Color of Compromise video series is now there, and which is the truth about American church's complicity in racism, which yesterday just became a best-selling book. All right, Jamal Tisby, I think it is. I thought it was Jamal Tisby, but I haven't read that book, but I've heard many people recommend that book. So I can't speak to that book because I've not read it or seen it. But if it's the bestseller, I want to know what people are reading. So I will definitely go and read it. But I do think it's Jamal Tisby. But if you say Jenner Tisby, I'll go with that. But Jamar Tisby. All right. Yes, Antoine, I didn't know there was that was on there. I'm definitely going to find it and watch next week. Okay, I think you're talking to him. Thank you, Ramon. I think what brothers need most in all of this is the general consensus in the streets is that resisting the police in any circumstance deserves an instant death. Oh, how do we address this disconnect? I think that is. Ramon, that is great because some of the people have come to me and then they'll say to me things like, "Hey, you do know like there's a difference between what's going with Rayshard Brooks and what happened with Ahmaud Arbery, right? Or even what happened with George Floyd." And I was just like, if by difference you mean there wasn't the same, like one was in the daytime, one was in the night, one was in like one had 2 police officers, one had 4. Like what do we mean by difference? But and I'm kind of playing with you because I know what they mean by difference. The ultimate thing is that it is justifiable to shoot someone like a Rayshard Brooks, right? Where it's not justifiable to stand on a man's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, right? So basically, it is okay to some degree, or it's justifiable. And I know they're not saying this, but it's okay, or we need to do a lot more due diligence to give it the benefit of the doubt. We need more due diligence in order to address the issue concerning Rayshard Brooks, but because. And the bottom line is, man, we're talking about momentary decisions. My problem is, and I was talking to a pastor about this, and he was just talking about, this pastor was going out, and he's a white pastor, and he was just talking about like how he went out and he was going to go run, and then as he was talking, he says that like he got argumentative with the police because he wanted to park his car here. And the police came and said, you can't park your car there. And he was just like, why can't I park my car there? And he was like, you can't park your car there. And it was like, and he said, like, they got argument in they got in a heated debate about whether or not to park the car. And it's like, there's nobody else here. Everything is closed. Why can't I park my car here? And it's like, and there was this argument, a heated debate. Ultimately, the conclusion was, never once at any time did I ever feel like my life was in jeopardy. So let's take that white pastor out and let's put a black pastor in there, but he don't know I'm a pastor. Same situation. If I was then shot, the problem is if somehow it would get escalated quicker, and this is what we're talking about, systemic or pervasive, that it'll get escalated quicker because I'm a black minority and I'm in shape because, I've been working out P90X, so because I've been working out, because I'm a big black man, I used to play football, that it is easier for it to get escalated and then I will be put on the ground. Because I then shared with him, let's just say, and I haven't, let's just say, I've been pulled over by police officers 20 times. All right. If I've been pulled over by police officers 20 times in my life, I'm going to tell you, and again, I haven't documented any of this. I would go off to say, and I'd be willing to bet a large portion of my money that more times than not, that if I've been pulled over 20 times, more times than not, let's just say 12, I've been asked to get out of my car, sit in the back seat of the car, or get out of my car and wait, than I have just sitting in the car like a normal traffic stop needs to be. That is what I call systemic racism. Pervasive, that these are different cops, right? And so that's kind of what I'm talking about when we're talking about this idea of systemic injustices or systemic racism that we have in here. And so that's kind of what we're saying, is that is it different? Yes, there are. It wasn't the same facts. Were not. Like, yes, no. Rayshard Brooks, yes, he was running from the cops. And he had a taser. Yes, those are facts. Yes, George Floyd did not have a gun or a taser, and he was not running, right? So, we can get into the facts, but if we're saying they're different is it now justifiable? No difference. That's what I'm saying. No difference. Neither one of them are justifiable. All right, so that is kind of so I just want to nuance, let's talk about these things. Let's nuance, because I'm just not willing to just agree with everything, so we got to stand up for certain things. So anyway, Domingo Phil Vischer, yes, from VeggieTales. Yes, he's the one who wrote it. And again, it's called Holy Post - Race in America. Divided by Faith, yes, is a classic. Is a classic that you guys can definitely see. Thank you guys for putting it in the comments. Watch the 13th. It was good. Phil Vischer, it was good and would be helpful for other Caucasians. My wife and I are hosting that what we believe in these first ever Juneteenth gatherings at a public venue in our city. Suggestions for us as we work to finalize our plans. Honestly, I just think that this is a time that we need, like you said, that when people are saying that they want to listen, but I would say listen with the call to action, that listen with the idea that I'm going to act on my listening. So when we say, I'm just taking a posture of listening. Yeah, take a posture of listening, but listen in the same way you listen to your child with a tire on their leg. I mean, we've already talked about that. They're screaming out in hurt and in pain. So listen so that you can hear what needs to happen so you can relieve the pain. So let's not listen so that by the next presidential election, we'll be good. Let's not listen in that way. So that's really what I'm kind of referring to there. So let's just, I think that's just important for us to recognize the difference between the two, right? So let's just continue on. Divided by Faith is a great book. Yes, that addresses the different issues of white people and people of color have when it comes to seeing racism, individual and systemic. Yeah, that's a great. Angela Hart put in there. Divided by Faith is a classic. Jamar Tisby is the person. Yes. Antoine, when my oldest child was young, I only really used VeggieTales, the Storybook Bible, to teach my child because nearly every other children's Bible material paints every single biblical character as white. It is something that needs to be addressed in the church. Yeah, I mean, but I do think that we're starting to see more. They're starting to see more people that are thinking through that, and I think part of that, Antoine, is this like like people like you. Like I know that are artists and people like we need to start publishing stuff. We need to start writing stuff. We need to create materials and content and do things that's going to last beyond our lifetime. And also, I do think that we do, but it's on us to do that. Like by us, I'm talking about people of color, right? If we want to see more pieces of people of that, then we need to do it. You know, we need to do more of it, right? And I just think that is a good thing for us to be able to do. So what else? What are you guys thinking about? It wasn't justified. Yes. Wow. I just can't imagine. Antoine says this, I think we have accepted a form of policing that is inherently violent, mostly to African Americans. We accept that a resisting suspect runs the risk of being killed. But why do we accept that? You know, and as a former corrections officer and a current campus safety officer, I have accepted these things, but I think we have fundamentally accepted a horrible system. I think that is true. And I think that that's really what I'm trying to get at is it's like when people are asking for an overhaul of the system, we're talking about reform because the whole system has been built. And that's kind of what we're saying is that the system has been built to oppress a people. And so we can't just simply we got to reform the whole system. Like we can't just kind of redo Jim Crow. We got to do away with Jim Crow. So I think that is kind of what the cry of the streets, what the cry of people who are saying they value Black lives, right? The cry of the street is saying we need to change. And specifically, this right now is targeting on policing. We need to put more money into social work. And now, I got a whole nother beef with social works. So we need to reform that system too, because I've experienced some stuff with social work where they can just do stuff to you that is not of God, and they can just disrespect you. So that's another thing about social work. And I guarantee if we put social work under the microscope that policing is being currently put on, I guarantee you we would see some disconnects too. So again, I'm not that guy. I'm not, there's a devil in every bush type person. I'm not, but I just do think that and that's why I love the stuff that we're talking about, like the 13th, that the stuff that I'm listening to, that Jamal Tisby, I haven't read his book with Jamal Tisby, and those others, these are things that are talking about an unjust system. And ultimately what we're saying, again, hear me, that the 13th Amendment did not end systemic racism. That's what we're saying. It just morphed itself into other things, right? Other systems, other systemic systems. And what we're arguing is that those other systemic systems still exist. And one of the ways is policing, right? So again, I don't know, now if you just disagree with that, then let's just talk, but let's not keep on making this ambiguous. Let's not make this ambiguous. Let's just say you disagree with it. Now we have a place that we can begin our dialogue. And and the thing is that I'm okay if you disagree with it. I disagree with you disagreeing with me. Now I don't disagree with you disagreeing with me, but I disagree with you. You know what I'm saying. So that ultimately, that's what we're just trying to figure out is what is a healthy tension when it comes to this. So, Marianne, according to the law in Georgia, a taser is not a deadly weapon, so the officer shooting Rashard was not justified. Yes, and I've had this argument with someone, Marianne, and I think that is good because I heard the gentleman, his lawyer, say that. However, this was the response back, and I thought it was a good response. However, then my wife said, but it's not a good response. Now, let me just tell you what the response was. The response is that if a police officer who has a taser is trying to tase someone is different than if a criminal tases a police officer. Because if a criminal or someone, I'm not going to say a criminal, that's a bad term. Let's just say a civilian who is tasing a police officer, the argument is that they will stun the police officer. And when they stun the police officer, that police officer is momentarily stunned. That police officer also holds a weapon. So they said that now it does make it a dangerous situation and a life-threatening situation, because if I get tased, I'm going to be immobilized. The person can take my gun and then shoot me. So that's the argument back. But then after saying that, which I get that I totally get that. However, in this case specifically, that police officer also had another cop that was there. So that cop that was there would mitigate that circumstance, because he's not going to tase both of them. Because, so you can't tase both of them. So he would then, if he did go for his gun, then he can then shoot him. Right? So there's that. I'm telling you, that's how it's going to be argued in court. That's what I've heard. That's already what's going on. So I'm not judge nor jury. I'm just telling you, to Marianne's point, that's what's going to be said concerning that. And I think that there is some legitimacy to that. I do think that there's legitimacy to that. However, but I also think, but the problem with all of this is this: it's still not justified. It's not justified. And the thing is going back to, we all got to recognize that all of this is taking place in like 30 seconds, like a 30-second, 40-second time frame, that everybody's making split decisions. Because I guarantee you the cops didn't think, well, if he tases me, then they'll take my gun. And then, like, he definitely didn't think that. He thought, this black man is running from me, I need to shoot him. That's what he thought, right? I mean, that's what he thought. He's running from me, and he's pulling away. I need to shoot him. And there's a lot of things that's going into that, but I'm just saying, we just need to understand there's so much to this, and we just need to create space for us to have honest conversation and honest dialogue, about it. And that's really what, I'm on here to talk to you guys about. But, and again, this is probably one of the less biblical days that we're going to have, because I'm not going to hold you guys all along forever on here. But I just wanted to just kind of talk about, there are some things that I want us to talk about. We're going to talk about, the tension of the words Black Lives Matter, and specifically for us as Blueprint Church. What does that mean? Are we going to use the words Black Lives Matter? The statements and all that. And so I have many thoughts on that. I'll talk about that next week. Tomorrow's Feelings Friday. But I just really wanted for us to get on today and just really have some talk about this, to hear kind of from you. What are you guys thinking? What are some of the thoughts that you guys are having in regards to what's going on? And so Marianne, thank you. I'm learning so much since I started attending Blueprint Church. Thank you to Heidi. Well, thank you, Marianne, for saying that. Anything else? Any other comments, concerns, thoughts that you guys have? I mean, again, I want to leave this open. I'll stay on if you guys have stuff. If not, this is going to be an easy day, easy peasy. You know what I'm saying? I got some thoughts. Again, we talked about the idea of being a racist and racist systems. Racist systems, we need to be careful of calling people racist, because a racist and a rapist to me is both wrong. So we got to be careful about just throwing out that term. But however, racist systems is different than racism, right? So there's racist systems, there's racist people, and there are racist acts. All right? So we need to distinguish between racist systems, racist people, and racist acts. Just because you do a racist act don't mean you're a racist. You guys get that? Right? Just because you do a racist act don't make you a racist. Just as much as, well, let me back that up. Because as I'm thinking about it, you can say something that is racist and not do it intentionally, is basically what I'm saying, right? If I'm intentionally trying to tell someone that, and they are doing activities, I guess what I'm saying is that, just like jaywalking doesn't make me a jaywalker, right? That's not my identity. And I think that is different. There's a differing to jaywalking and a jaywalker, or there's a difference between the idea of doing certain acts, and then now my whole identity Because the reason why I say this is because people have started to label Giglio a racist. And there's one thing, it's one thing to say, man, that was stupid. And even that, what you said was even at the core of racism. That's an act, but you're not racist. He's not racist. And I just think that we need to be really careful with and differentiating that too. All right, Antoine, has anyone heard about the APD's slowdown starting last night? Officers essentially saying they will call off work because of what they deem to be unfair treatment by charging their fellow officers. Oh, goodness. Well, you got to understand it's a fraternity. This is a fraternity. So they probably are doing that. No, I haven't heard that, Antoine, but it's a fraternity. You protect blue. But just like, people, you protect black, you protect, and I think the thing is it's like you protect family. So, it makes sense to me logically, but I have not heard that. But I'm not going to some degree, that's what some people want, defund the police, right? So if they stop coming, right, I don't know. Again, and you guys have never heard me say, I don't know where I land on defund the police and all those things. Like, I don't know. I'm still researching. So I can't tell you, but one thing I do know is that Black Lives Matter and I value Black lives, right? So that's one thing I do care about. And one thing that I can say unequivocally is that the 13th Amendment are, like, even during the time of the civil rights, there is still systemic oppression. Those are the two things I can say overtly. There are systemic racism that needs to be overhauled. Those I can say unequivocally, right? So all the other stuff is the stuff that we just got to talk about. We got to talk about it, and that's what we're creating space on here to talk about. But I love you guys. Appreciate it. Sounds like that's it. That's it. Marianne, that is not correct on the use of a taser. I don't know what we're talking about. But anyway, you guys, I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for joining us again. Tomorrow, Feelings Friday, we'll talk about our feelings. But I love you guys, and I'll see you next time. Tell people about what we're doing, Weekdays with the Hottie. Each day, 11 a.m. We love you guys. Wait, we got one more. You got to keep your ear to the streets, the Hottie. You need to know that APD info. Yeah, you're right. I do got to keep my ear to the streets. You guys are my ear. So I come on here so that you guys can tell me to keep my ear to the ground. So I didn't know that Jamal Tisby's book was a bestseller. So I'm gonna go support my man. I love what we're starting to see people, really trying to learn. It's not people just saying stuff; they're really trying to learn. So, all right, you guys, love you, appreciate you. Until next time, peace.